Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for our AFSC, American Friends Service Committee Facebook Live. We're so grateful that you're tuning in from wherever you're tuning in around the world. And so we'd love to just invite you as you're joining us today to please go ahead and put in the chat anything that you want to share about who you are, where you're tuning in from. And as always, as we go through today's Facebook Live, please go ahead and share all of your questions and thoughts and ideas with us. So we're so honored today to have two really extraordinary colleagues with me. First of all, my name is Kristin Kumpf. I use she, her pronouns, and I have the honor of being the Director of Human Migration and Mobility at AFSC, based out of our Washington, D.C. office. And I want to toss it over to my colleagues, Grace and Tori, to introduce themselves as well. Grace?
Thanks so much, Kristin, and good morning. Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Grace Kindeke. I'm the program coordinator with the New Hampshire office here in Concord, New Hampshire, although I'm calling in from my home in Manchester. And I am excited to be here, and I'll toss it over to Tori.
Hey, everybody. My name's Tori, and I work in the DC Policy Office for AFSC. So I'm calling in from Washington, D.C. today.
Awesome. Thank you so much to both of you, to Grace and to Tori. And for those of you who are just joining us, we're just getting underway because today is an extraordinary day. We've just had some really historic news come out of our Congress, and want to share that in a minute about what this means for our immigration work and for multiple issues that we care about here at AFSC. But first, we want to turn it over to Grace to talk about some really exciting work that's happening out of our New Hampshire office. That has been part of the incredible FreeThemAll work that we've been doing across AFSC, and the work that they've been doing in New Hampshire around folks who have been incarcerated and detained, and everyone who sort of has been coming together to work on the work of abolition and moving towards decarceration. And so we're really honored to, in the midst of a very busy week, to have Grace join us to share about some of the events that they are planning. So Grace, would love to just hear what the issues of decarceration and abolition mean for you all in New Hampshire. How did you all come in to this work? And tell us a little bit about the work that you're doing around FreeThemAll in New Hampshire.
Yeah, absolutely. So we have been, deeply immersed in immigrant justice work here in New Hampshire with our host home network, with our immigrant rights networks, as well as a visitation program that AFSC has been co-running for a number of years. But we wanted to expand our work especially under the header of FreeThemAll, which is such an incredible campaign, to include decarceration of, prisons and jails, as well as detention centers. I think oftentimes as we're doing this work, we start to really see how deeply entangled and enmeshed the prison and carceral system are. We're looking at mass incarceration where prisons, jails, and detention centers are working in tandem to continue to feed people into that machine. And so people who, would be then are picked up by detention or are picked up, for a variety of reasons, put into jails and prisons, and finding out their immigration status, are then placed in detention. And those two systems are just growing. And so with the work that we've been doing here, we've been wanting to expand both to be able to our own analysis and understanding of mass incarceration by, building our partnerships with organizations and individuals who are working both on the decarceration side, working with incarcerated population people who are either currently incarcerated or coming out of incarceration, are looking to rebuild their lives and reconnect with the communities. And so, we have recently hired for our decarceration organizer, Anthony Harris, who has been just an incredible partner in doing this work. And we have recently partnered with the National Council for Incarcerated Women and Girls, who came to New Hampshire on the start of their Clemency Works tour to bring to the country the awareness that clemency as a tool to free and release, especially women and girls who oftentimes in this work that we're doing, their stories and their experiences and their pathways to incarceration are oftentimes ignored or not seen or heard. And so with that focus, we have two incredible events that are happening today and actually and tomorrow as well, where we are bringing together people, the community members at a recovery center here in Manchester for a Quilting for Clemency event, where we are connecting with the community to share with them information about clemency, to build awareness of the fact that clemency can be used as a tool. Not, it's not the end all be all for because our work ultimately is for abolition of these systems, but it is a tool that has worked and can work. And New England, and it's starting in New England this tour because it's so notable that we have the lowest rates of incarcerated women in the country, and yet our governors here almost never use clemency as a tool. And so even people who do apply for it are often, they don't often get the clemency because governors are not using them. So we're, here to build awareness as well as to build pressure on the governor here to release women from prisons, especially women who are elderly, women who have been punished and served their time, and women who have served at least 10 years of their sentences. So we're really starting small so we can build that understanding. And we're connecting it to the work of FreeThemAll because it's all in service to eventually to getting people out of jails and prisons and detention centers, keeping them out, and then closing those systems for good. And so that's happening today. And then tomorrow we are having a rally at the State House in Concord to really bring that attention, make some noise, and just really make it clear, make that message loud and clear that we are calling for clemency and we are calling for eventually to end and transform these systems.
That is also amazing, Grace. And I love the extraordinary creativity that you all have of a Quilting for Clemency event, and also the incredible advocacy that you're doing, which I want to return to in a second. I'm wondering if you can just say a little bit more for folks who may be new to this work and new to the work of FreeThemAll, what clemency actually means and sort of like what takes to get that, and the difference it might make in the lives, especially when you talked about the range of women who you might be seeking clemency, like alongside of sort of what that would mean for their lives and getting clemency.
Yeah, absolutely. So clemency is a tool that governors, and that it's written in the Constitution, that governors and the president can use to pardon and to reduce the sentences for people who have committed a federal crime. So it's essentially an application process. You submit your materials, your case, and it is reviewed, and then ultimately a decision is made as to whether or not you would receive the clemency in the form of a reduced sentence, which is called commutation, or as a pardon, which absolves you of the crime. And ultimately the result is that you would then be able to come home earlier than what you would have been sentenced to do before you were able to be released.
Thanks. That's so helpful. And I think it's important to note that in both of the events, so both the creativity of the Quilting for Clemency, but then also that's exactly why I think it's helpful for folks to hear then the importance of you all doing an event in front of the governor's, in front of the governor, and really trying to do the level of advocacy that you're doing at the state level. Can you talk a little bit more about that? Like, what is it meant to like organize for FreeThemAll and sort of the types of advocacy that you're doing around that movement?
Yeah, absolutely. So within New Hampshire, us being such a small state, everybody pretty much knows everyone. And if you don't know somebody, like somebody that they know. And so our work as AFSC has only been successful because we've been able to be in coalition with different partners right here on the ground, partners who are doing a variety of work in different issue areas. And so we bring a supportive eye, and we bring an analysis to really tie the work that we're doing together. And that's really what we're trying to do more of, especially under the FreeThemAll banner, because of the enmeshed ways that the detention system here, the jails and the prisons all work in tandem. And so we have a strong interfaith community, and we've done a variety of actions, including a solidarity march to our members of Congress's offices. We recently did this where we had a group of people coming in together, and we marched to each of our both of our senators and our representatives' office here in downtown Manchester. We read through like exactly what we wanted them to do, and we tweeted them right then and there. So we've been really combining both digital actions and on the ground actions. And so in addition to that, with the work that we're doing for clemency, we're partnering with groups that we don't always partner with. We're partnering with the Women's Foundation and other individual organizers and activists, as well as, our key partners at the ACLU and and others. And so we really are building off of the grassroots work that has the foundation of work that has already been set with, like I said, the interfaith communities, as well as with individual organizers and activists, because oftentimes people are working sort of in silos and don't realize that there are others who are of like mind as well. And so we're just continuing to build that out and continuing to like hone those partnerships and cement them, and bringing those different campaigns where we can to really continue to put pressure on our members of Congress, especially right now, to be doing the right thing, as well as locally on our governor and our legislators.
That's so inspiring. Thank you, Grace, for sharing that. And thank you for sharing both like the unique ways you all are building partnerships across different organizations, and again, the levels of advocacy and the ways that you have done advocacy both digitally online in a way that is so accessible for all of us. And right now, we're going to be dropping in the chat ways that all of you all can join us, no matter where you are in the country, to take action for our Free Them All movement. That there are people across the country who are organizing to see folks who have been incarcerated and detained released, and to make sure that we are shifting the conditions that are happening for folks, and that is something that we can do both in terms of advocating to our local elected officials and county officials, all the way up through our governors and state elected officials and our members of Congress. And the layers of advocacy are important to doing both digital and also on the ground creative actions in the way that you all are doing. And I'm particularly, you all have been doing extraordinary work to move your members of Congress. And that is so important right now, because there's a lot in front of Congress. Many of you have been tracking the news and trying to really follow what's been happening, both with an infrastructure package that has been moving, but also really important, our budget resolution process, which is incredibly complex, and major decisions just went down in a sort of intense time that we often call votorama. And so we're really grateful to have Tori out of our public policy and advocacy office in Washington, D.C., who tracks Congress really closely and can actually help break down for us what just went down into the wee hours of the morning in the last 24 hours. And why is that important to all of us who care about justice and care about our communities? So Tori, could you just explain to us in as clear terms as you can what actually has been happening in Congress in the last few hours and days?
Yes, I will try. I think the biggest thing is that our senators are probably pretty sleepy today. They were up really late and or into the wee hours of the morning last night working on a budget resolution. For those of you who have joined our previous Facebook Lives, you've heard a lot about this process. It's sort of the big news of the summer and what we're following in terms of our Citizenship for All asks. We're currently alongside this Free Them All campaign, asking for citizenship for all, and trying to find a way to ensure that all undocumented people in the United States are able to have a pathway to citizenship that doesn't currently exist. Unfortunately, the Senate is a big roadblock to that because of the filibuster and the need to have 60 votes in the Senate rather than just a simple majority. And this reconciliation process, which is a budget process, is a way that we can get around that barrier and actually get some of this really exciting and progressive legislation and policy through this year. So what we've been asking for is, in this budget process, to include citizenship for all. The first step to this budget reconciliation process is for members of Congress to pass a budget resolution, which happened in the Senate last night or this morning. They, after a really intense period of voting on a whole bunch of amendments, many of which were unfortunately very anti-immigrant, but which are non-binding, they passed legislation which does include sort of the next step to getting citizenship for all. It includes instructions to the Judiciary Committee for the next piece of legislative language that comes in this process, so that we have hopes of seeing a really inclusive and expansive and exciting path to citizenship in whatever legislation comes next. So we're not to the end of this by any means. The budget resolution still needs to get through the House, and then each chamber still needs to put together the actual legislative text of the reconciliation process, go through the markups and pass the actual legislation. And it's all complicated by the fact that there's another big bill, the infrastructure bill, and a lot of politics around how we're going to get this stuff through in a really complicated political dynamic in both the Senate and the House. But for today, we have a win. We have the possibility of a roadmap to citizenship in the resolution that was voted on last night, and we're really excited about it. And we certainly, we still have asks for the Senate and the House. Just because this resolution has passed does not mean that we're letting up on them. There's a lot of decisions that are going to have to be made over the next couple weeks. So we're asking that people really keep up the pressure on your legislators to ensure that that citizenship ends up in the final bill, and that it is as expansive as possible. We don't want to see any exclusions for anything. We want to see all undocumented people have this pathway. So that's where we're at. Like I said, senators are tired. DC as a whole is tired, probably. But really exciting stuff, and lots of hope for citizenship this year.
That's so exciting. Thank you, Tori, for breaking that down. I'm sure you're tired as well from the late hours you've been up tracking all of this. So thank you for being with us and sharing that. I want to ask you both in a second sort of what that means for us and sort of what we can be doing to do the best advocacy we can wherever we are right now in the country or in the world. And sort of like when you said, Tori, that we need to keep up the pressure, like what you feel like that means. And for you, Grace, sort of how you all are planning to do that in New Hampshire. First, we have a question coming in, though, and I want to invite others. If you have questions, this is a great chance for you all to do them. We have a question coming in about what's the point of a non-binding agreement? You mentioned a non-binding agreement, or non-binding amendment. What's the point of a non-binding amendment? And can you explain a little bit more without getting too in the weeds of some of the technicalities of this process?
Yeah, so the votorama that the Senate just went through is a chance for people to put up all sorts of amendments. Some of them are really horrible. For example, there was one that would ban the teaching of critical race theory in schools. There was some where they were, trying to boost the numbers of detentions and deportations happening, things like that. The good news for us is that even though some of those passed, they are non-binding. What's the purpose of a non-binding amendment? Great question. It's all, in a lot of cases, PR, right? The people who proposed these amendments want to be able to force really tough votes, especially for moderates, and get them on the record saying something that they don't agree with so that they can, bash them publicly for it, or alternatively, get them on the record agreeing with them so that they can use that in the future too. So it's really just a mechanism to force really tough votes. Some of the amendments could have an impact on, what ends up in the eventual resolution, but most of them are just public messaging and just really unfortunate rhetorical devices, essentially.
Yeah, that's a great point. Thank you, Tori. And I think that oftentimes these are used as a way just for members of Congress to be able to say some things that we need to check them on and to try and make some political moves. And I think all the more reason why we have to keep up our advocacy in this time. So I just want to ask you both, like, what do you hope that people will do now? Like, what are the calls to action that you'd like for all of us to take to make sure that citizenship for all really does stay and is included and is protected in this budget reconciliation process, and that the other horrific amendments also are taken out. So what can we do? What are you hoping we will do? And for you then, Grace, after Tori answers that, I'd love to hear then how you all are hoping to engage folks in New Hampshire. What are some of the ways that you're hoping to continue advocacy? So Tori, do you want to share what folks can be doing in this time?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing right now is keeping up the pressure, like I said, for the inclusion of citizenship. We can't have them thinking we don't think it's important anymore just because this resolution is passed. This is still a priority. You can be calling your senators and representatives. You can be emailing them. We do in the chat have a action alert link that you can use where it's pre-populated with text that we want to be going to members of Congress right now. So feel free to use that. And yeah, any way that you can keep up the pressure on your elected members of Congress would be really helpful.
Yeah, and here in New Hampshire, this the same thing. We have 4 members of Congress. We have 2 Democratic senators. So there are, we definitely are encouraging people to, really get out there and share and get their voices heard with all of them, to let them know exactly what they should do to ensure that there is a pathway to citizenship. I think it's really important. One of the things that we are trying to do is so oftentimes immigrants are the scapegoat for our legislators, and they're often used as a trump card or as a way, as a bargaining chip, whatever words you want to use. They're often the first to get on the chopping block. And so I think it is really for us here, as we're building our coalitions across issues, to really see this as like, this is not just, this isn't just an immigrant rights issue. This is a racial justice issue. This is an issue about rebuilding and repairing during and after the first wave of the pandemic. It is about, really honoring our essential workers. It is about, understanding that immigrants are essential workers. They are women. They are, they are, Black, brown, they're a diverse group of people, and they are parts of our community. And so we are holding in September a solidarity walk in collaboration with the We Are Home campaign, to really bring attention to in New Hampshire and bring the community together on this 3-day walk from Manchester to Dover, New Hampshire, ending at the Stratford County Jail, which is our detention center here in New Hampshire, and having evening programming at the end of each of those days. We've adjusted it, because of COVID, so we're not doing overnights, but we're still walking together. We're still going to be in community together, hearing each other's stories and talking through, what are the direct actions that people can take, which we will, we're continuing to build. It's really ensuring that because oftentimes we hear that our members of Congress don't get enough calls, they don't get enough emails, they get a lot from the other side, urging them to continue to use immigrants as a scapegoating tool, but they don't hear enough from our side and from the communities at large who are supportive of immigrants, who are here to fight for pathways for citizenship for all. And so we're just continue. So we'll be having those events in September, and that will be posted to our AFSC New Hampshire page, so folks can join us on that. And we're just continuing. So the call is definitely keep calling, keep emailing, keep tweeting, keep buzzing, and join us. Join these events that we're having. Get to know other folks in the community, because this work is, it's deep, it's foundational, it is beloved, and we are building that community that we need and showing up together collectively to show that, like, New Hampshire and the United States as a whole is a place for immigrants, and there's no tolerance for anti-immigrant legislation that we just keep seeing year after year after year.
Thank you so much, Grace. That's a really powerful way for us to start to come to a close today, is just a reminder of how important this is for our communities and for the relationships that we hold so dear, for the depth of the work that is really what anchors who AFSC is across the country, and that the face of our work and our FreeThemAll organizing and our advocacy around citizenship may look a little bit different, no matter where you are, but that we are united by our deep connections to see the full dignity of every person realized. And whether that is being released from jails or detention centers, whether that's actually being able to seek a pathway to full citizenship, and the other ways that we hope that people will be able to live fully with their communities and with their families together. So we want to continue to sort of see that advocacy happen. We invite you all to join us. If there's any final questions that you all want to see answered, please put them in the chat now so we can try and get to them. Otherwise, we hope that you will join in the movement to free them all and advocacy around citizenship for all, and that this is the time, friends. Go ahead and please click on both of those links. There are 2 action alerts in the chat, one around calling on our governors and other decision makers around our Free Them All movement, so that you can really help support. And we invite you to join with us across the country. If you want to start working on issues of decarceration in your own communities, let us know. We're happy to help support you do that and to connect you with people who are doing that work around the country. And also, please, please, please do call on your members of Congress. We had a major victory last night, as Tori said, but we are only partway there, friends, and we can't let up the pressure now. That now is the time to make sure that we are ensuring that there is a pathway to citizenship for as many people as possible in our budget reconciliation process in Congress, and also that we are making sure that other horrific amendments are not in there, and that we continue. There is still a chance for our voices to be heard, and that is in the gift of living in a country where democracy is supposed to be the law of the land. So let's really live into that as much as we possibly can. Please do join with us. I don't see any other questions for now. So any final comments or calls to action, Tori or Grace, you want to share?
No, I just want to, reiterate again that this, the work of Free Them All is, about bringing attention, freeing everyone from prisons, jails, and detention centers. And as we're fighting for pathways to the citizenship, that's one of the tactics as we're fighting for clemency across first New England and across the nation. That is a tool for for abolition. And so all of this is in service to ultimately not having systems of incarceration used to punish people who have perhaps some who have maybe made mistakes, some who are trying to build families, people who are being people in their full complexity of humanity, and that there are other ways that we can build to address people's needs and to hold our communities accountable. But the systems that we have currently are not working. So these are just one of many, many ways that we are coming together and building this quilt and this tapestry of abolition and in solidarity, so that we can truly have the kind of country that we deserve and that our children deserve.
Exactly. Thank you, Grace.
And I'll just jump in with deep appreciation for all of the people who are AFSC supporters who have been contacting their Congress members already. There's been a ton of energy from people probably on this call and among the AFSC community in general. And it really has, gotten us to where we are now. So really want to thank you all for your interest in the issue, for your commitment to speaking out regularly, for getting your communities engaged, and really appreciate your continued engagement as we get on the home stretch of this fight for citizenship.
Home stretch. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Tori. Thank you for your continued advocacy and guidance around our work with Congress and for helping us track all the things. And Grace, thank you for the extraordinary work you're doing on the ground in New Hampshire and the whole New Hampshire team. Many thanks to Maggie and Anthony and all of the all the folks who are there on the ground. So many blessings to you as you all are doing an awesome job today with the Quilting for Clemency. We're excited to be able to join you all virtually and support that. And again, thanks to all of you watching us today and joining with us live or later. And it's not too late, friends. Please go ahead and sign the action alerts, both and click on both action alerts, the Free Them All alert and the Citizenship for All. Let's keep putting together that tapestry, as Grace said, of inclusion for all people as we join together on freeing and calling for Free Them All and also for Citizenship for All. So thank you, friends, for joining us today. Look forward to the next time you can join us live on AFSC's Facebook Live. So thanks, friends. Have a great day.
Thank you.